Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first ever show on Heisman Talk. Today we are going to be talking about the championship games coming up this weekend, and in fact, one of them starts in about 4 hours, which is going to be the Pac-12 championship between Oregon and Utah. Now, these championship games have a lot on the line. Today, in fact, Utah will be playing in 20-mile-an-hour winds. So that's a huge disadvantage as far as championship games go, because you look at the SEC championship game and the Big 12 championship game, and, well, the ACC is actually outside too, but the significant difference with the Pac-12 championship game is that it'll be played with 20-mile-an-hour winds and torrential downpour. So that'll be interesting to watch. They've got an uphill battle for sure. So let's dive right into it. Let's see. So you got Utah versus Oregon, and I believe Utah's favored right now by about, if I can check my stats real quick. Let me pull it up. I believe Utah's favored by about 7.5 right now, which isn't very much. You look at the other conference championships, and it's pretty big. You look at the ACC, and Clemson's favored by 28.5, and then you look at a team like Baylor and Oklahoma, where Oklahoma's only favored by 9 right now, although the overall is 64. So that should be very interesting. So let's start with Utah versus Oregon. So Utah is playing for a playoff spot. Obviously, Oregon has 2 losses, so they're out. But there's still a lot on the line. I believe if Oregon wins, they will be going to the let me think. The Rose Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. So it's big implications, and Justin Herbert's got to come out throwing. I think he's got to have a big day to be able to win this game. He's got 31 touchdowns of the year, so he's doing pretty good. And like I said, again, Utah's favored by 7. So that'll be interesting. I think the difference in that will be Utah's defensive line. I think they've got a really good defensive line. Overall, I haven't been able to watch much of Pac-12 this year due to the lack of game times on ESPN and primetime TV, because it's West Coast, so it's on later at 10:30 and 11, so I haven't watched much. But Justin Herbert's got a good arm, and I believe Zach Moss is going to have a huge day too, running the ball for sure. So next on our list, we'll go into the Big 12 championship. It's another big game. You got number 7 Baylor, who's got 1 loss to Oklahoma, and you've got Oklahoma at number 6 with 1 loss to Kansas State. Obviously, the big name in this game is Jalen Hurts. We'll see how well he does. I think he's a really good runner. I think both teams, I think Charlie Brewer is going to have a big day tomorrow. CeeDee Lamb could get in there if he's healthy. And yeah, I think, well, actually, I don't think CeeDee Lamb's playing. I'll have to double check on that. But Charlie Brewer for Baylor has been an outstanding quarterback all year. He's out of Lake Travis High School, out of Austin, Texas, and in fact, growing up, he wanted to play for Texas, but they never offered him. So he went to Baylor and proven them wrong. Texas is 7-5, and Baylor is 11-1. So very interesting to watch. So that'll be a very good game. You've got, which I don't have in the title, you've got the American Athletic Conference Championship. Now, I find this one to be one of the most interesting games of the weekend, actually. You got number 20 Cincinnati versus number 17 Memphis. Memphis is currently favored by 9.5. What's interesting about it is 2 things. For one, they played 2 weeks ago. So, you know, when they played last week, if Cincinnati had won, they had knocked out Memphis, and I believe it would be Cincinnati versus Navy in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. But because Memphis, in fact, won, they were able to get into the championship, and now they're going to be playing at home. So it's going to be played at Memphis. Looks like it's going to be nice weather, 55 degrees and sunny. I believe it's 3:30 kickoff on ABC. And so, yeah, that'll be one of the biggest interesting matchups, I think, just because they played just 2 weeks ago. And so you know Cincinnati's going to come out firing. You know they're going to win a New Year's Six Bowl. Everyone knows whoever wins this game every year gets a New Year's Six Bowl. Last year, I believe it was UCF. They got to play LSU in the Fiesta Bowl, I think it was. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot on the line for this. So then we go to one of the biggest matchups of the day, and that is number 4 Georgia versus number 2 LSU. Everyone's been talking about this all week. And LSU's offense versus Georgia's defense. Who's going to come out firing? LSU is currently favored by 7. The over-under is 55.5. I don't think the over-under will be 35 to 40 points. I think it's going to be a very defensive game. And I know a lot of people have been saying that Jake Fromm's game is off. He's not that good this year. He's not that good overall. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he is a top quarterback in the draft, even after a bad year. Now, whether he decides to come back next year or not to play another year, we'll find out. I know the captains just got released for the game for Georgia today, and the 3 are J.R. Reed, DeAndre Swift, and Jake Fromm. So, with that being said, maybe DeAndre Swift and Jake Fromm are in their last game in the SEC championship. Hopefully not. I'd like to see Jake Fromm come back another year and work on his craft a little more. But I think he's an overall great quarterback. George Pickens made a bad decision. He apologized, and it's really going to hurt them in the first half. But I think overall, Georgia's got a really good shot at this game. I think LSU is going to be very, very tough to beat. I think they're one of the most sound teams in all of college football. But I also think Georgia's defense is the best in the country. And in fact, I think they have the best kicker in the country too, and one of the top 3 quarterbacks as well. So they've got, and possibly the number 1 running back. So a lot of the teams have a lot of elements to them, which are very interesting and very good to watch out for. My prediction is that Georgia will come out on top, 31-28. So let's go down to some of the games that aren't talked about as much, which are still pretty good games, I believe. Right now, Clemson, number 3 in the country, is going to be playing Virginia in the ACC Championship, ranked at number 23. Clemson's favored by 28.5 points right now. Pretty big margin compared to the other conference championships. You kind of look at it and say, it's not going to be really much of a game, but I tell you what, Virginia is an upset alert in the making. I truly believe that they have a shot at winning this game. I know Clemson is a very sound football team on both sides of the ball. They have Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, I believe is how you pronounce it, and T. Higgins at wide receiver. So they're pretty solid on offense. They've got some very good defensive players as well. They lost a lot of players last year on the D-line to the NFL draft. I believe 3 or 4 of them are starting in the NFL right now, so that's pretty good. Pretty good recruiting. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that game plays out. I think Virginia's, whoa, it's kind of bright. I think Virginia's got a pretty good chance at winning this game, but we will see. And finally, at 8 p.m., you have Ohio State, number 1 in the nation, versus number 8 Wisconsin. Now, I personally would love to see Georgia and Ohio State play in the playoffs. I would love to see Justin Fields play his former team in Georgia. I think that would be a great matchup. I think both teams would be wanting to win that game for sure. Wisconsin, they've been up and down this season. I believe if they win this game, they go to, if they do win this game, they go to the Rose Bowl. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, the Ohio State Buckeyes are favored by 16.5, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that much of a game. The over-under is 56. Obviously, people expect for Fields to put up, 48 to 56 points, but don't be surprised if Wisconsin limits them to 37. I think they're definitely going to score a lot of points. I don't think Wisconsin's going to win the game, although I hope they can keep it close. And finally, we talk about the overall playoff picture. So, a lot of people are debating who's in and who's out, right? You got a lot of scenarios. If Georgia wins, it's obviously set up already. You got Ohio State, you got Clemson, Georgia, and LSU in the 4, not in order. But if Georgia loses, it's going to be very interesting because I think that Oregon has a good shot at beating Utah. And I think if that's the case, Baylor has a good shot at beating Oklahoma. And you can see Baylor slide right in there. But we'll discuss that further in next week's video. We won't get too far into that. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in today. It's my first channel, my first video ever, so I really appreciate the support. I hope you guys enjoy this channel. I'm hoping to continue this channel for years to come and make it the #1 college football news channel on YouTube. Again, thank you. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you on either Sunday or Monday with the update video for who I think is going to be in the playoffs. And until then, this is Nathan Johnston signing off.